Welcome back to Branding Champions, brought to you by Teal the Agency. I'm Howard Wolpoff, your host. We're here to talk about branding and every concept imaginable, but today we're going to focus with our guest, Greg Monaco from RelaunchU, and focus on a conversation about personal branding. So, Greg, welcome to our conversation today.
Oh, I'm glad to be here, Howard. Thanks for having me on.
Well, glad to have you, and I'm glad we're talking about this because personal branding is not just influencers making a big splash and growing different followers, but really is something that individuals need to focus on in their day-to-day life, in growing themselves in their own careers, just making a statement for who they are. What are your thoughts on personal branding? We'll start there.
Well, all of us at some point in our career are going to be through some kind of transition, and those transitions can be scary moments if we're not prepared for what's next. So I believe that branding is a discipline, whether it's corporate branding or personal branding. It's a habit that we need to form so that we are laying tracks for what's next, because that's going to be coming upon us, whether it's a day from now or 6 months or 2 years from now.
It makes a lot of sense. You don't know when some of these transitions are going to hit you. Some of them you plan for yourself, but some of them come pretty abruptly these days. What would you say are some of the main focuses that people should have with regard to their personal branding?
Well, if you're lucky enough to know what the next thing is, then the scary part there is like, what do you say and who do you say it to? And so I think preparing yourself for those conversations by just understanding what makes you a little different and taking time to be able to craft the right kind of storytelling that really inspires and connects with the people who matter to you, that's key.
It makes a lot of sense. Obviously, I'm a big proponent of storytelling, but I think people don't do enough of looking back at their experiences or an experience that just actually happened to how to formulate that into a story to then address the next things and to reinforce the strength that they bring to the table. Because let me tell you what happened with this person and how I solved this issue and how strong that is in the conversation in building relationships.
Oh, I totally agree with you, Howard. One of my clients sold his company for $300 million, and he was done. He didn't want to do it again. He was totally burned out. And so he had a transition afoot. There's that moment, that scary moment. What was revealed was that he wanted to help people who were younger than him and who were in the same position. So younger people who wanted to sell their businesses for $300 million. He had the playbook. So he wanted to connect with these people. So that's the kind of work that I help people do, is how do you connect with those people by telling great stories and developing a content engine for yourself to lay the runway for that.
Where would you say is the best place to do that? Where should people be posting? Where should people be sharing these stories to get the most out of the brand that they're creating?
That's an excellent question, and it all depends on where that person's target audience lives, where they consume content. If you have a very clear understanding of who you want to engage with and where they hang out, that's where you go. So I'm not going to tell everybody that they need to be on LinkedIn or they need to be on TikTok. I'm just saying, understand where your audience hunts, and that's where you need to show up.
Well, that's a very big key to marketing and branding overall, which makes a lot of sense for someone's personal brand. So, Greg, thank you so much for joining us and sharing these words of wisdom that people should really soak in and try to implement into their lives.
It's a pleasure, Howard. Glad to be here.
And thank you all for joining us as well. Your personal brand is very important, whether it is trying to find that next job, trying to be visible so someone might find you for that next job, or trying to be that expert that people seek out for their next project, their next need, the next piece of business that you end up developing. Always be focusing on your personal brand and making sure that you're putting your best foot forward. Go out, have a great rest of today, and we will see you next time.